Walter Green was an old man with tired hands and a quiet heart. For decades, he worked at a steel factory in a small industrial town where winters cut through skin like knives and kindness rarely had a voice. He had no family, no wealth, no one waiting for him at home. But one night, everything changed. After a long shift, Walter walked past a narrow alley behind a diner. The wind was sharp, the hum of freezer fans echoing in the dark. And there, huddled by a dumpster, were two children, a boy and a little girl, shivering in rags. The boy had his arm wrapped around his sister, trying to shield her from the cold. Walter could have kept walking, everyone else did. He could barely feed himself. But something in those children's eyes reminded him of every night he had spent alone, invisible. So with a shaky hand he knelt, reached out, and said softly, "Come on." Not tonight. That night, in a tiny apartment with peeling wallpaper and a heater that coughed more than it warmed, Walter gave the children blankets, warm broth, and something they hadn't felt in a long time, safety. His neighbors whispered behind doors. He can't even afford his own food. He'll sink with them. But Walter didn't care. The years that followed were built on sacrifice. Walter worked through pain and insults from his cruel boss, Mr. Harlan. Too slow, too useless, the man barked. But Walter endured it all to raise Eli and Grace. He gave them his food when cupboards were empty. He patched their clothes, walked Grace to clinics, taught Eli to shake hands with dignity. He gave them what he never had. The children grew, brilliant and brave. Eli earned scholarships and dreamed of becoming a lawyer. Grace found her voice in writing and stood tall against anyone who mocked their strange little family. Walter, growing older and weaker, watched with quiet pride. But Mr. Harlan's bitterness only grew. One day, the trap was set. Police burst into Walter's apartment, finding bags of stolen company property he had never seen before. He was arrested, handcuffed like a criminal. Harlan smirked outside the factory gates. Guess kindness doesn't pay after all. The courtroom smelled of varnish and judgment. Witnesses bought by Harlan painted Walter as a thief. The whispers returned. I knew he was too good to be true. As the judge prepared to deliver a life sentence, Walter stared at the floor, heart heavy. He thought of Eli and Grace, but hoped they'd never see him like this. Then, the courtroom doors opened. Two figures walked in, no longer children, but Eli and Grace, standing tall. Eli carried legal files. Grace held her recorder, the light blinking red. The room went silent. Eli, now a lawyer, stepped forward with steady confidence. Grace, a journalist, positioned herself to document everything. Together, they dismantled the lies. Witness after witness faltered under Eli's questions. Grace presented evidence of Harlan's crimes, years of wage theft, harassment, forged records. Gasps filled the room. Harlan's smirk vanished. The judge leaned back, tapping his pen slowly before declaring, "This entire case was built on manipulation. The charges are dismissed." Applause erupted. Harlan stormed out. Walter sat frozen as Eli placed a hand on his shoulder. Grace leaned close and whispered, "You don't have to carry it alone anymore, Dad." That single word, Dad, hit harder than the gavel that freed him. The neighbors who once mocked fell silent. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed, and Walter, old, tired, but unbroken, finally lifted his head high. He had once pulled two children out of the cold. Decades later, they had pulled him out of a cage, because kindness doesn't die, it grows, it waits, and one day, it saves.